The start of livestock shows were actually originally called fat stock shows, referring to the meaning that they were the animals ready for market and to be produced. They have now evolved into just being standard livestock shows, and it's now more or less the fact that the animal looks the best or has the best dimensions, the best physique of the animal. There's been a lot of controversy on how if livestock shows are humane and have a lot of stigma against them, and I'm here to discuss that they really don't, and it benefits a lot of young youth in having the ability and the capability of partaking in these activities. So let's get to it. Organizations like PETA or the Humane Society of America have created false realities of farms. I'm not talking about factory farming. I'm talking about small family-owned farms. Now, you may wonder, what are they doing to small farms if we're not talking about factory farming? Because factory farming is where animals are injected with antibiotics for mass production so they grow faster. They're kept in confined spaces, not enough space per animal per square yard. They're just not treated right. So you may be wondering, like, why does PETA or the Humane Society really care about what my farm is doing to my animals? Well, I'll tell you. They are creating these false accusations or staged pictures on how we're treating our animals. They're saying that we treat them unethically, we harm them because we use whips or canes or some sort of show material to get our animal to move the way we want it to move. We call them whip breaking our animals, which the whips aren't actually hurting the animals. They say that we're not giving the proper living condition to our animals. And they even say eating meat is bad and wrong. All of those things are actually tied to factory farming, not small animal farming or small farms that produce meat. What is failed to recognize is the endless hours that we spend a day with our animals. The strict feeding schedule, the exercise, the washing, the lotioning after they get washed, even putting sunscreen on our pigs when we take them outside in the summer because their skin is very sensitive, and if it's not protected, they will get sunburnt and peel. My pigs get washed once a week, sometimes twice a week. They get rinsed off every time they leave the barn, every time they go back into the barn. They get lotioned every day. They get walked every day. I spend about 6 hours a day with my animals, and it's not getting recognized. They just think that we're, keeping these animals in pens and feeding them whatever we want, scraps and garbage, but they're not. The animals are treated very well, but that's not the biggest problem that we're running into. The biggest problem that we're facing right now is the antibiotic administration regulations that are coming out. New regulations are coming out every year, more and more strict every time they come out. I think the biggest thing right now is that antibiotic regulation. Before we were able to go to a provider, grab a bottle of penicillin, go back to our farm and administer that drug ourselves if our pig was sick. Now we can't do that. We have to have a veterinarian come out and do it, assess our animal, and then give the drug if the veterinarian thinks it's suited. We also would use medicated or antibiotic feed, I should say. When I refer to medicated anything, it means some sort of antibiotic unless I specify. So we would give our animal a medicated feed mixed in with a regular feed that they would get when they are coming onto our farm. This is solely for precautionary reasons, because just like you and I, we go to a different environment and try to live there and then come back or stay there, we get sick. same as these animals, same as my pigs. They've grown up on the farms that they were born on, and now I'm bringing them to a new environment, and they're going to get sick if there's not something that's preventing it. We haven't been able to do the medicated feed in, I believe, 3 years now. And last year I almost had to put a pig down because it got so sick. And the year before that, the first year that this law or regulation came into effect, I did have to put a pig down because I was unable to give it antibiotics as a precautionary, reinforcement to make sure that that animal's as healthy as it can be. And then this year we haven't ran into any problems yet. Fingers crossed, it's still pretty early. Last year was our first year that we were not able to give medicated water. So our alternative to the medicated feed was medicated water. We are unfortunately unable to do that now as well. This is due to people thinking that they're consuming antibiotics and building a resistance if they're eating meat. This has caused a lot of controversy in the meat production world. Many restaurants have changed where they are likely to get their meat from. Chipotle is the number one. Here's a quote that I found in my research that says, "The demand for antibiotic-free meat expands, and not just for pork, but also for chicken and beef. The company is now aiming to buy all of its meat, some 120 million pounds a year, from suppliers who meet the antibiotic-free standard." That's great for wherever they're getting this 120 million pounds of meat, but I don't think consumers realize that those animals are not 100% antibiotic-free. If one of their animals gets sick, you bet they're getting an antibiotic to treat it. What people don't realize or fail to see or look into is that all medications have a withdrawal time. If I give my pig 5 milligrams of penicillin, I then look on the back of the bottle and it'll have a withdrawal period. It's typically 3 to 7 days, depending on the antibiotic. That means that that animal cannot go to production within 3 to 7 days. It will not go. And even if it were to go to production, every animal gets tested before it is sent out. The FDA has strict regulations on meat testing and meat quality procedures. That would not be sent out if there was a trace of antibiotic in it. And then whoever sent it to the slaughterhouse would most likely get fined for it or in a lot of trouble. That leads to my argument that I kind of have with this, is why are they able to give an antibiotic, but my show animal is not able to get any sort of antibiotic? It just doesn't make sense to me, because before all of these regulations and now after all of these regulations, everything gets documented. My pig has a drug history form, and every single antibiotic that was ever given, whether it was a medicated feed, medicated water, penicillin, any sort of medication, is on that drug record. And I turn that in before my animal gets off the trailer at the fair. But again, some of these farmers cannot afford a vet bill. They can't. And one of the biggest reasons is because they're just small farmers. I mean, farming makes almost no money. So one of the quotes that I really enjoyed from my research was, "Is there one thing that everyone can agree on? All animals should be treated humanely from birth to death." And almost everybody agrees with that. I could not think of one person that would not agree with this quote. Everyone cares about their animal. We spend countless hours with our animals. If we didn't care about them, we would say, forget these rules. I'm going to do what I want to do and find a way to get these antibiotics and do whatever I want with them. But we don't. We follow them, but it's harming our business. Everyone, again, agrees with the ethical treatment of their animals. But if a small farmer wants to go and buy a $15 bottle of antibiotics, they should be able to. it beats the alternative of that pig suffering and dying because it was unable to be treated because we can't flip a vet bill. And that doesn't sound very ethical to me because of these regulations. It's forcing these farmers to do things that they typically wouldn't do due to new regulations on antibiotics. There's a quote that I want to leave you with that was it's about PETA and the Humane Society. It says, "But what they do not do is use the millions of dollars to fund in fundraising to build animal shelters, provide research for new technologies and procedures, or provide truthful information to consumers about the animal agricultural industry." That hits hard. Are PETA and the Humane Society really in the best interest for these animal rights and equalities, or are they in it for the money and the benefit and to solely go off of an emotional-based data? You can answer that, but I have my opinions and you can have yours. Thank you.